Yo, what is good, Jets Nation? Welcome back to another Jets Media live stream. And today we got a special guest, and that is Connor Rogers from Bleacher Report. How is it going, Connor?
Good, Richie. What's going on, man? I appreciate you having me.
Of course, man. I know you're a very busy man covering the Jets, covering the Mets, bringing us very good content. I just saw you on SNY, and you did a great live stream all throughout Bleacher Report as well. So if you want to introduce yourself to everybody that don't know who you are, but hey, I'm assuming if you're a Jets fan, everybody knows who you are. So if you want to give yourself a little introduction.
Yeah, man. Well, I'm the lead NFL draft analyst for Bleacher Report. That's my that's what keeps the lights on, right? That's the day-to-day job. I really love doing it. Get a full lens of the entire NFL and the college football world and what really brings both together. So that's my day job. But, you know, like a lot of people in this industry, I started out just as an unpaid blogger writing about the Jets, which was my childhood team. And I think it's always kept me close to the team, even, you know, with full-time obligations that are, you know, not completely away from the Jets, but you got to serve attention to everyone. So it's been really cool. I always love connecting with Jets fans, and I'm glad here in the New York media market that I still get to do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I appreciate you taking your time because I know you're busy. You got another stream later tonight. So we're going to get right into Jets talk, right? So in your opinion, Connor, how would you grade the overall Jets 2021 draft class as a whole? Obviously, there's 10 guys to talk about, but if you can just put it in a nutshell, how did Joe Douglas do in his second draft as a New York Jets general manager?
I think he did a great job, honestly. I think it was better than last year's class. I think when you look at last year's class, there was some nice picks. He obviously loved Becton and Mims, and that's before they even played a snap. And, you know, I see a lot of potential in Ashton Davis, and I think that even though we didn't get to see him last year, there's a lot to like about Cam Clark. And when you take offensive linemen on day three, even if you can get them to be long-term backups in the NFL, that's pretty successful. And I think Clark will have a chance to start this year. But outside of that, you know, this class felt a little different because of the volume of impact at the top. You're turning over the franchise to a new quarterback, one that I'm really excited about, one I really liked a lot, and one that I had written as the second best quarterback in this class going back to December. And then, you know, it was really, Richie, what matters is what they do after that, because you and I have seen them take a quarterback in the top 5 picks before.
Oh, yeah.
And that has a lot of talent, that can throw on the run, that seems like a really, you know, good mental makeup kind of dude, making a big move from the West Coast over to New York, New Jersey. So the difference here is they did really do a lot after that to surround him, supplement him with talent. And you look at Vera-Tucker, I love the move. I love the player. He's the only guard I had a first-round grade on in the entire class. I think he's a great scheme fit. I think he could play left tackle in a pinch if anything ever happened to Mekhi Becton, and a lot of people don't put enough value on that. Elijah Moore, complete difference maker at wide receiver, a slot that can win over the top, can create his own yards with the ball in his hands. And you got to love what Michael Carter can do as a committee back. He really reminds me of Devontae Freeman, someone that Mike LaFleur was with in Atlanta when he had those back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and, you know, was a really productive player for a short stretch there. So I think when you look at it, if you can get almost 4 starting level players for the offense, a unit that really needed to be supplemented or just needed an infusion of talent across the board, that's a big win. A lot of swings, a lot of developmental, a lot of high traits kind of guys taken on day 3 for the defense that I'm sure we'll talk about. But this draft will be remembered for what Zach Wilson does with his career and how the guys around him help him. And I think they checked both of those boxes as best they could.
Exactly. You bring up a great point. What this draft told me the most, and Jets fan in general, the Jets are trying to build around Zach Wilson. I almost said Sam Darnold there. We know what happened with Sam Darnold. They literally drafted him, and they did not surround him with the talent, the coaching staff, the resources in order to succeed. And Joe Douglas had a first-eye view of that. And he's like, you know what? And Rob Saleh, what did he say when he answered the phone and talked to Zach Wilson? This organization is going to lift you. It's not going to be the other way around. A lot of people crown, when you draft these high draft picks, it's going to be a savior and all that. But I love that the organization from the Jets, from top to bottom, they're trying to give Zach Wilson the opportunity to be comfortable, have protection, have playmakers. And that's something that as Jets fans, we're not used to. And if you look at this wide receiving group on paper, from 1 through 5, it's deep. Denzel Mims entering year 2, Corey Davis with the big free agent signing, Jameson Crowder, Elijah Moore, and Keelan Cole. Those 5 receivers I'm very sold on. So I want to talk about Zach Wilson. So what's your expectations for him as a rookie? And like I mentioned, I love that the draft was all about him. They followed up by trading up to get Elijah Vera-Tucker and then Elijah Moore and then Michael Carter. So they're giving him the offensive weapons to succeed. So what is your expectations for Zach Wilson in 2021 as a rookie?
Yeah, I think my expectations for Zach Wilson are they are going to do their best to protect him. And what comes with that is a heavy dose of the run game and what I think will be a more effective run game. But I also think at times you're going to want to utilize his strengths, not just because that's obviously the most logical thing to do, but because his strengths is throwing the ball vertically down the field. And that puts a lot of pressure on the defense to open up the run game. And it goes both ways, right? You start to develop the run game, defense inches up, it opens up the downfield passing attack. If you start to open up, if you start to get that run game going and they're loading the box up, it's going to be a play action offense. It's going to be trying to attack with that rollout, cut the field in half, get guys down the field, get guys in the deep middle of the field, and really have the linebackers scrambling, right? They react to the run and then it's play action. So I think when you look at it, there's going to be a good balance. And I think there's going to be logical, well thought out shots down the field because you have contested catch targets in Denzel Mims, Corey Davis, one of the better contested catch players in the NFL last year. And the fact that Elijah Moore can be a deep threat as well with his 4.36 wheels. And we know what Crowder can do underneath as well to move the chains. And then you have, if one of those guys gets hurt, still have Keelan Cole, who's a really, really nice. I mean, how many teams have Keelan Cole as wide receiver 5 on their roster? That's what really stands out to me. So my expectations for Wilson are, do I think he's going to drop back and throw the ball 45 times a game? No, and he shouldn't. That would be just not a wise strategy. You're taking a lot of injury risk with any quarterback you do that with. You're putting a lot of pressure on a young player who will turn 22 during training camp this summer. And I just don't think it's the best strategy for any offense going long term. You look at what Green Bay has done with Rodgers. You look at what the 49ers have done, what Tennessee has done. All 3 of those quarterbacks, I know the Niners are transitioning to a new one, have had high-performing seasons before when you don't expect it with Tannehill, Jimmy G. Rodgers, obviously different scenario. But that's because they've bought in to the play-action passing game and really buying into the system as a whole. So I look at it. Let's not forget it's a little longer of a season. Numbers will be a little different. I think Zach Wilson comes out, and I think he throws 22, 24 touchdowns, but more importantly, keeps those interception numbers down. Can you keep that interception range from 12 to 14 where you're really outweighing the passing touchdown production by plus 10? That's a big win for the Jets with a rookie quarterback. That's a win for any team with a rookie quarterback. If you're going plus 10, not to mention, I mean, he's a good athlete, and you can really get him on the move in the red zone. You can threaten with his legs in the red zone. There might be a handful of touchdowns with his legs at the red zone that they run a little read option. They get him rolling out, and the space is there to take what the defense gives you. So I'm excited for Wilson. I'm excited to see them let him cut it loose a little bit and take his shots down the field. But it's also a little reassuring that it's an offense that understands we need to develop some kind of run game as a threat to protect our quarterback long-term and ultimately help him and the receivers in the pass game.
Exactly. And I feel like the Jets coaching staff and this offense in place is going to do that exact thing that you're mentioning. And you brought up Elijah Vera-Tucker when I asked you your overall grade. You said that you had a first-round grade for him as a guard, and you said he's a good scheme fit. So there's a lot of debates going on Twitter. Was the Jets trade worth it? As we know, the Jets moved up 9 spots from 23 to 14. We gave up our 2 third-round picks, and we got a 4th-round pick in return. I love this move. Going into the draft, if you go back to my tweets, I'm like, give me Zach Wilson and Elijah Vera-Tucker. And if we have to trade up to get him, please do it. And I had a feeling that Joe Douglas was going to do that because I had this vision of Mekhi Becton and Elijah Vera-Tucker solidifying the left side of the offensive line for a long time. And that's exactly what happened. So, Connor, do you think this trade is worth it? Because obviously we gave up some capital, but the way I look at it, we basically use the capital we got from the Jamal Adams trade to get up there and get a guy that Joe Douglas loves. He obviously loves his character. He loves his work ethic. He loves his physicality. It's a scheme fit. So do you think the trade was worth it?
I think it was. And I think it's very important when evaluating these trades from a big picture perspective to also look at the smaller picture, right? To zoom in on the lens of that both teams can win in a draft scenario, right? Just because the Minnesota Vikings felt like they didn't need one of those players in the top 15 and got out and did a very good job. Spielman's one of the better trading GMs in terms of draft capital every single year of the last 10 years. But that doesn't mean the Jets lost. I think when you look at it, number one, a lot of people are saying, well, the Vikings still got Darisaw. The Jets didn't need a left tackle. They're not. Darisaw played left tackle his entire college career. Sure, you could argue that maybe you think you can move him to the right side. A lot easier said than done. George Fant is not the problem with the New York Jets. I cannot say this enough. And I was low on that signing. So for me to come out and say it, it's not like I'm biased because I have a very good understanding or rooting interest or anything like that for the Jet. I was low on that signing. I thought he outperformed expectations where he's an adequate right tackle. That's good enough right there where you're not panicking at right tackle. You're panicking at guard. And was this a good offensive line class? Sure. It was stronger at tackle and center than guard ultimately, especially for what the Jets needed a sure thing. And Vera-Tucker is the closest thing to a sure thing. It's not a lot of those in any draft at guard in this class by a really big gap. And I think for the Jets, no matter what people say or project, I'll tell you right now, he was never making it out of the top 20, Vera-Tucker. I don't think he was making it out of the top 18. So that's a pipe dream. You had to go make the move if you wanted the player. And when you look at it, it goes back to the chain link reaction, right? And like I'll reiterate, the Vikings did a very good job in this trade. And I like some of the players they took. I like their assets they recouped. But once again, from the Jets side, you had a lot of draft capital last year. You had a lot this year. You have 11 picks next year, with a lot of them in the top 100. At some point, anybody will tell you this. You have to maneuver because you're not going in with these 11-man draft classes every year where every guy's making the roster. That's not possible in today's NFL. So, and pure, statistics of players making it, you're not going to hit on a majority of those picks in those large draft classes. So I like making the move for a upper tier prospect and one that can play right away. He's played left tackle at a high level last year. He played left guard at a very high level the year before that. And now you have a foundation on the left side of your offensive line, protecting the blind side of your young quarterback in Mekhi Becton. And I see that jersey back there, Richie. Hopefully he's going to be there for the next 10 years. And Elijah Vera-Tucker, that's something to build on. And Jets fans know because they saw this team double dip in the past before in recent in close proximity on the offensive line, and it builds a core. Look when they did it with Brick and Mangold, and they supplemented that unit a lot in free agency and really built it out as well. You need a core on the offensive line for a young quarterback. And for the people that I don't really understand it personally, what they can really nitpick at, this is a team that understands what went wrong with developing a rookie quarterback before in Sam Darnold. The interior has been a problem. There were not a ton of solutions in free agency, and quite frankly, they just weren't coming here. Joe Thuney was going to the Chiefs. He got $20 million a year. He's going to the Chiefs. Corey Linsley at center, he was going to the West Coast for good money as well. They had to use the avenues that they had, and that was draft capital. And in my eyes, they got the clear-cut best guard in this draft.
Yeah, and it's so refreshing, right? Because it feels like the Jets' past general managers have been ignoring the offensive line ever since we had DeBrick and Mangle. Those are the two core guys that we drafted in 2006 together. And ever since then, it's been like since 2015, we've never valued the offensive line, and it's been driving me insane. It's been driving the entire Jets fan base insane.
No investments. Ever,
yeah, exactly. And it's just so refreshing, right? We got Joe Douglas, a former offensive lineman. He understands. He came here and he's like, okay. And how funny was that? In his first offseason, he literally brings in 5 new offensive linemen. That's when you know how bad it was. And we got a franchise-changing, hopefully Mekhi Becton at left tackle, Elijah Vera-Tucker at left guard. And I just love how he's putting his premier picks on that offensive line. He wants to build it through the draft. And I feel like our defensive line is set. And we know that Robert Saleh and Joe Douglas values the line of scrimmage. I feel like we built through the trenches this offseason in free agency by bringing in Vinny Curry, Carl Lawson, and Rankins. And now we're getting another top tier talent in the draft in Elijah Vera-Tucker. So I'm super excited about that. So now let's pivot to the defensive side of the ball. We drafted 6 defensive players after going all offense. So if you want to bring up some of your favorite, because I know there's a lot to talk about. So just give your overall thoughts. Is it Michael Carter II? Is it Sherwood? Is it Nasruddin? Is it any of them? So just give your overall thoughts on the Jets defensive players they brought in the draft.
Yeah, so my highest rated one was Nasruddin. Nasruddin, I thought, was the best strong safety in this draft, and I had him as the 90th overall player, and I think they got him at 186 or something very, very far back. So when you look at it, the only question mark with Nasruddin has nothing to do with the tape. It has everything to do with how he's going to bounce back from a torn ACL at the end of the 2019 season that cost him almost all of 2020 besides 2 games. And I think he's still trying to come back in full from that ACL where, it was a weird year. The pandemic made medical information more difficult. Teams were much more skeptical without their typical information on these players. And I think if he gets back to form, he's a steal in the 6th round, because I look at what they wanted Keanu Neal to be when they pitched him in free agency to come play linebacker for them. And he ended up going to the Cowboys, ironically, who took 900 linebackers in this draft. It's crazy how that works. And, you could tell this was still a need for the Jets because they took a double dip in this draft at those spots. Jamie and Sherwood, a little bit more downhill thumper. Nasruddin, a little bit more lateral agility, can play the slot. I think he runs a little better. They both have good length. They both played a ton of special teams in college, both hard-nosed, solid Joe Douglas guys that just really, Nasruddin went through a lot at FSU. There was a lot of turmoil at that program over the years, and he never jumped into the transfer portal. He never, made us think about anything publicly. He just kind of put his head down and played and balled out in 2018 and 2019. He was phenomenal. The versatility is great. He's played free safety, strong safety, slot in the box. I think that he can get on the field very early. I really do. And I know that's crazy for a 6th round pick, but if you have Mosley in the middle, that's your thumper. You have a front 4 that can keep him clean. We're going to see what the reclamation project of Jared Davis can do. But Nasruddin is a guy that knows how to slip blocks, stop the run on the outside, run with running backs and tight ends, has a nose for the football, has really long arms, good enough speed. If he comes back full from medical, that's the pick that really jacks me up. That's the one that I look at and go, man, he had no business being on the board here, even with the injury risk. And Sherwood I like. I just look at Sherwood and think, I had him at 137. I think they took him at 146. He's a core special teamer, over 500 snaps at special teams while at Auburn. I don't know if he can run, which makes it tough if he could be a matchup player for tight ends. But I think that he comes downhill as a blitzer very hard. He takes on contact. He lives for contact. And I just think that they upgraded the special teams units and might have gotten sub-package players for the middle of the field for a defense that needed to get more athletic.
Exactly, man. And you hit it all on the nail. We got a lot of different chess pieces for Robert Saleh to maneuver, whether it's the hybrid linebackers, the safeties, the slot corners, the outside corners, special team core players. It was really interesting to see Joe Douglas maneuver the back end of that draft defensively. So one last question before I let you go, Connor. What's your overall first impressions on Robert Saleh, and what do you expect from him as a head coach? Because this is his rookie season as a Jets head coach, as a head coach ever. He's only been a defensive coordinator, a linebackers coach, so he's never really been the guy. And we saw last week during rookie minicamp, he was sitting there on the field and he was waiting for the head coach to talk, and he's like, "Oh wait, that's me." And of course, the media blows it up out of proportion. But you gotta love Robert Saleh. So, what's your overall first impressions on Robert Saleh?
How can you not love the guy, right? He's easy to root for, whether you're a Jets fan or not. He's easy to rally behind. He's a good guy. Everybody I've talked to that's known Robert Saleh for 15 years just loves this guy. And I think for the Jets, they needed somebody that is relatable and humble, but also has a good grasp of the locker room. It's almost like they went the full reverse of Gase. Now,
literally,
with Saleh, don't let him fool you with those, high energy phone calls or the meathead gifs of him celebrating. He's a really bright guy, and he's done a lot of innovative things on the defensive side of the ball over the years to earn this position. And he was actually overdue for this position. I thought he should have been a head coach last year for the Browns, or, obviously this year with the Lions would have made a lot of sense, and the Jets got him. I think that how his offensive staff performs will dictate a lot of his success here. But in terms of having the pulse of the team in the locker room and calling the defense with Ulbrich, or game planning with the defense with Ulbrich, and developing players and relating to players, there's no reason not to believe in him. It's just how high can he climb? How far can he take this Jets team? And quite frankly, a lot of that will be on the quarterback. Joe Douglas just selected 2nd overall. So I'm a big fan of Robert Saleh. I'm rooting for Robert Saleh. I think that, like all rookie coach seasons, there'll be learning experiences. There will be times where he makes mistakes. There will be things that he goes, well, now I know about that. It's tough. It's tough coaching the defense, and then in a year, you're having your hands on every aspect of the organization. That's a transition that no human being can adjust to like that. But I'll say this, if there's somebody that is smart enough, level-headed enough, and gets people, which is such an important aspect of working in this league, it's Robert Saleh. And Jets fans should be excited, and they should believe in that.
I love how you said Robert Saleh is the complete opposite of Adam Gase, because that's exactly what I say all the time. Robert Saleh is the exact type of head coach I've always wanted, a guy that's high energy, that's going to develop relationships with his players, where he's going to force his players to really look up to him and say, wow, I got to fight my ass off for this guy. I do not want to disappoint him. I'm going to go on the field and do everything I can. And I'm just so thankful that we got a head coach that I feel very confident in, and Jets fans should feel a very different energy in the New York Jets organization from top to bottom. Joe Douglas with finishing his 2nd draft. That we got a brand new quarterback, brand new coaching staff. Everything's new. I feel like Jets Nation, we have this weird feeling of change, and we go through a lot of change, but this one feels a little different.
Optimism, yes.
Right?
Like real optimism, not
exactly.
We're all trying to fake optimism.
That's exactly it, because we always try to force ourselves like, all right, we'll see what Gase can do this year, but we know in the back of our head, it's like, very good chance it's going to be a nightmare, but it's realistic optimism that a lot of Jets fans can feel. The energy is changing. The culture is changing. And Connor, I thank you so much for taking time to join the Jets Media live stream. Anything you'd like to say before I let you go, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, Richie. For real, man. Great job with the show. We'll definitely do it again this summer. It's, it's exciting times for the Jets, and we don't always get to say that. So it's a lot of fun, and just keep grinding with it, man.
I appreciate that. And it is exciting times with the Jets. And we can say that over and over again, because Jets fans, we have not been to the playoffs in 10 years. It is looking good in Jets land. Connor, I appreciate you. If you guys are not following Connor on Twitter, that is down below in the description. Make sure you do so. And like the video if you guys enjoyed, and make sure you subscribe to Jets Media. We'll catch you guys in the next episode of a Jets Media live stream. Peace out, everybody. Let's go Jets.